Welcome to this live feed. Thank you so much for being here. How is everybody this afternoon, this evening, this morning, wherever you may be in the world? How are you? How are you feeling? Let me know that you are here. If you are coming in now, if you're just chiming in, please place a number 1 in the comment box, and also let me know how you are feeling. We're speaking to a very interesting subject matter today, and one that I'm sure at some level can all relate to. And I can say all in absolute terms, because we either want to be consciously in healthy relationships, or we are self-sabotaging and placing ourselves in unhealthy relationships. So I guess what I'm saying there is that there are parts of us that yearn to be in what we would call and define as healthy relationships, healthy conscious relationships, and aspects of ourselves that sometimes cannot quite immerse ourselves in that, what we would define as a healthy relationship. So what we're really doing here, and what we're really doing now, is in this live feed is going to begin to break down what it means to be in an unhealthy, toxic relationship, and how we can notice that in our relationships. But let's just keep in mind, right from the beginning here, what is very important to understand is that beyond all of this, we are ultimately and effectively speaking to relationship to self. We are speaking to how do we treat ourselves? How is our internal speech structured? How do we feel about who we are? This is so important. Hello, Cynthia, Donna, Carol, thank you. If you're just jumping on, people, place a number 1 in the comment box. Let me know that you're here. And an emoticon, maybe a smiley face or a love heart or flower or a little animal or something to let me know how you're feeling, because how we feel generally will determine the receptivity of the information coming in, the quality of that reception, yeah? So number 1 in the comment box, and new, if you're new, Sue, welcome. If you're new to these live feeds, place new in the comment box, and the tribe, the lovely tribe, will definitely welcome you, that is for sure. So how do we know, Ren, how are you? Good to have you here. How do we know that we are in a toxic relationship? Christina, welcome. How do we know that we are not connected to self? How do we know that we are ultimately in a toxic relationship to self? Because what happens is, in our lives, our external world is really a mirror for what is occurring within ourselves. Our external world is really an indication of what is occurring deep within our own selves, and how we feel about ourselves, and importantly, how we relate to ourselves. That's what this is about. So when we're speaking to toxic relationships, or we're speaking to any form of quality of a relationship outside of ourselves, we're not really looking at, is that relationship breaking down, or are we looking at externalizing the blame to another? Not at all. We're definitely not doing that. What we want to do is utilize our external environment, utilize the relationships, our extrinsic relationships in our lives, to be an indicator of who we are, of how we treat ourselves, of the relationship that we maintain and that we have with ourselves. That is the purpose of relationship. The purpose of relationship is to present a version of self that we cannot consciously see on our own. Sky, welcome. And if you can resonate with that, pop a number 2 in the comment box. If you can resonate with our relationships in our lives, there are many reasons why we have relationships. Of course, one of the core fundamental reasons why we have relationships, why we engage in relationships, why we feel so connected and strongly to relationships, Derek, how are you, my man, is because relationships symbolize what we cannot view consciously ourselves. For ourselves, they are an indication of what is occurring within our own minds, within our own hearts, within our own faculties, within our own spiritual, emotional faculties. So pop a number 2 in the comment box if you can resonate with that. If you can begin to understand and open yourself up to that, what will generally happen is that we will cultivate far more empathy and compassion for others, but also for ourselves, far more kindness and depth of love for self, when we are able to understand that. Nikhil, brother, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for being here. So it is important, brutally important, that we begin to view our relationships as a relationship to self. Yeah? So our relationships outside of ourselves are mirrors for how we treat ourselves. I have to keep hitting that point home. And I'm not so much I'm doing it, of course, for the audience, but I'm also doing it for myself, because there are times in my own life, and I'm sure there are times potentially in your life, where we're looking at life, we're observing life, and we wish to cultivate a deeper sense of patience with self, because there's something that we don't understand, there's something that we can't grasp. There is an aspect or aspects, components to life that we simply cannot connect to. So what do? We become frustrated, and the ego loves to project. The ego loves to externalize blame, because it hurts too much to be responsible and take ownership for our own actions and our own inner state. It's easier to externalize the pain of that state outside of ourselves. And if you've been there before and you can resonate with that, pop a number 3 in the comment box. I know I've been there many a time. So what, understanding this concept that our relationships are mirrors for our true being, for our authentic core self, by grasping that concept, we are able to elicit a deeper sense of patience, empathy, and compassion. And in that empathy, compassion, and patience, we're able to not react. You haven't missed too much, Emma. We're able to respond. We're able to create silence and stillness for ourselves. We're able to create a space of safety for ourselves and for the other. And that becomes deeply empowering, not only for who we are, but also for the quality of the relationship and what is experienced in the relationship, but also for the other in the relationship. So when I'm speaking to relationships, let me be very clear here. I'm using that as a broad term for relating to another soul or another being outside of ourselves. Yes, we're all connected, we're all one, we all come from wholeness and unity, but in this human form, I'm speaking to relating outside of ourselves. Corey, welcome, brother. It's an honor to have you here. We have some seriously conscious men on this live feed this evening. This is awesome. Beautifully aware men and ladies as well, the people that I can see. Beautifully aware, divine ladies, women here, beautiful. I'm just having a look. Thank you so much for being here. This is amazing. So let me immediately, well, it's not really immediately because we're 8 minutes in, but let me, before I begin to assist you in, and assist us in really understanding the signs of a toxic relationship, and actually I'll go into the definition in a moment, but before I do that, let me define what a conscious relationship is. Let me define by what my insight, my terminology, my understanding, my connection to what I strive for in all of my relationships. Because relationships, I'm not just speaking to intimate, erotic relationships here. I'm also speaking to friendships and familial relationships, colleagues, relationship to earth, relationship to things, to objects, relationships to other sentient beings. I'm speaking to relationships in general, anything that is relating outside of ourselves. So I define a conscious relationship, and this is really important. So if you're interested in this, grab a pen and a paper, or maybe on your phone or tablet or some digital device, laptop, computer, etc. And this is a very simple definition of what a conscious relationship is. A conscious relationship does not prioritize the relationship. A conscious relationship asks a number of questions of self. The first question the individual will ask is, am I being of value? And am I assisting the other in growth, in their own personal growth? So am I being of value to their journey? The second question is, am I being of value to my journey in this relationship, in this dynamic? The third question is that individual being of service to me in this relationship? And as a product of me, is that individual, or am I impacting that individual? So those are 4 key questions that we ask. And if the answer to that is yes, and there's growth and there's expansion on various levels there, guess what? We are engaged in a conscious, aware relationship. If you can resonate with that definition, it's quite a simple definition, but pragmatically it's another story, of course. When emotions are involved, when separate beings are involved, when conditioning and history is involved, it becomes very challenging. We must grow through these pain points. And usually I say, the deeper the challenge, the deeper the pain, the more profound the growth. And the deeper the pain and the challenge, the more profound the transitory experience. If you can resonate with that definition, pop a number 4 in the comment box. And we can see here in this instance that pain and challenge is beautifully eye-opening, and it's awe-inspiring, and a rapture can occur within us that allows us significant connection to self, a significant connection to the other, and significant connection to who we are as human beings. So without further ado, let's leap into the realm of toxicity, or a lack of health, or a lack of connection in relationship. And how do we notice this? So I've got quite a few points here that will really assist us in connecting to self and in connecting to relationship. And what we're really speaking to here is we're speaking to, am I respecting my partner in this relationship, or am I respecting the individual in this relationship? And is that individual respecting me? So there are basics in a relationship that must transpire in order for a relationship to be healthy, in order for a relationship to be successful. In other words, be a conscious relationship where both parties are growing and expanding. Now remember, that doesn't mean that there will be no pain and no challenge. There will be deep pain and challenge, but the pain and challenge is coming from a place of respect. It's mutual respect and connection and understanding of self and of the other. There are some basics that must occur and fundamentals that must occur in any relationship for a relationship to be conscious, to be healthy. Trust is one, reverence is another, respect is another, love, appreciation, humility. There are a number of different characteristics that are selflessness, healthy selfishness as well, the ability to say no, the ability to speak honest truth, to be authentic, the ability to set boundaries for oneself, and communication is so important. They're just some of the characteristics that must be expressed continually, that must be engaged in regularly. And when we do this, and when we embody this, and when we be this person for ourselves and for the other, life changes. The quality of the relationship begins to evolve quite profoundly. Now, if you can resonate with that, if you can resonate to some of those characteristics being super important in a relationship, place a number 5 in the comment box. And also what I'd like to hear, I'd like to read rather, to be more literal rather, is I would love to read some of your experiences with respect to what you feel some of the most important qualities are in a relationship, that are necessary in a relationship to help the relationship work, to assist a relationship in functioning effectively, to assist a relationship in thriving, not just surviving. There's no point in being in a relationship if we are simply going to survive in the relationship. We must thrive openly and fully in the relationship. That is when we will benefit the most. That is when we will feel the most profound from the relationship. So let us move into a little bit more around, Nina, welcome. Move into a little bit more around some of those key characteristics that you found are necessary in a relationship. And you can list 2, 3, 4, 5. Nikhil says compassion, intimacy, and space. And Nina says trust. Nina, where are you? Are you in Bulgaria? Where are you right now? I'd love to know where you are. I used to work with Nina many moons ago. A beautiful soul. Donna says vulnerability, courage, commitment to growth and honesty. Beautiful. Emma says, I believe supporting one another's goals. Everything thus far is so important. Carol says relationships thrive when each partner commits to total union with the other person and total creative expression as an individual. Carol, beautiful. And And communication binds that, Carol. So we cannot know what the other, what our definition of total union is, and what another's definition of total union can be. It can be totally different. So we must communicate what our definitions are, what our objectives are in the relationship, what our goals are, what our dreams, our aspirations, what we wish to feel in the relationship, what we wish to be in the relationship, how we wish to serve the other. Communicate that openly to determine whether there's a match, whether there's a synergy, whether there's a symbiosis in that relationship. And Nina's in Spain. Beautiful, Nina. It's not, probably nice and warm there. It's not too warm here in Australia where I am. But thank you so much for letting me know where you are. Wishing you many blessings and much love, my dear. Nan is in Thailand. Awesome. Thank you. And Emma says, yeah, communication is key. Absolutely. People, if you're just coming on, pop a number 1 in the comment box. Let me know that you're here. And if you're new to these live feed, put new in the comment box so the tribe can welcome you and that we all know that you're here. So now let's move into, we've laid some foundations there. And please keep these characteristics, these expressive states, these places of being coming. Keep commenting any personal experiences you wish to share. You do not know who you can impact by being here, by being present, and by speaking openly to some of your experiences. It can really help and assist others in understanding their own space and where they are in life. Yeah. So let's open up what it means to be in a toxic relationship and how to identify it. So we must understand what's really important, again, just to come back to this briefly, is our values. When we ignore our values, what is most important to us in life, we are minimizing ourselves and maximizing others. If we do not love ourselves first in a healthy manner, the path we take in life will be toxic. And people will take advantage of us, not because they're narcissistic or because they're unhealthily selfish, because we are allowing that to transpire. We are setting the standards. We are not setting our boundaries. We must remain true to our values. If you can resonate with that, please pop a number 6 in the comment box. That is so crucially important. If we wish to be the best version of ourselves, and if we can wish to maximize the best version of the other, we must remain true. Both parties, or all parties involved, or all people, all beautiful souls involved must be true to themselves. They must value themselves like never before. That is so important. That is holding yourself in high esteem. That is valuing your self-worth, valuing who you are, connecting beautifully and openly to self. That is the most amazing, amazing feeling. I promise you, it is the most amazing feeling. So it is so important to allow oneself to be present in a relationship. Now, what happens in a toxic relationship is we become drained. We can become narcissistic. We can become highly selfish. We can become disjointed. We can become disconnected from our emotions. We begin to doubt who we are. We prevent ourselves from growing when we are engaged in a toxic relationship. If the other is being toxic, if we are being toxic, if we are both being toxic, in other words, if we are not living true to who we are, to our values, it becomes detrimental to our health on so many levels. Psychological, physical, spiritual, emotional, relational. Every area of life is affected. We must understand that. Every area of life is affected. Now, like having a conscious relationship or defining a conscious relationship, the word toxic, or the term unhealthy or toxic relationship, is also a relative term or relative perception. It's not so much about having a toxic partner, but it's more about the conflicting survival strategies we have when we are under pressure. And when we revert to these survival strategies when we're under pressure, if our survival strategies are conflicting, the relational dynamic becomes toxic. Can everybody understand and connect to that? And Carol says, growth is not an easy process, but when you have two people that are dedicated to it, it becomes a team effort instead of a constant struggle to figure out who you are. You have to let go of the belief that expressing who you are will put your relationship in danger for the fear of judgment from your partners. In a conscious relationship, expression of who you are and what you want is is the point. In a conscious relationship, love is not the final destination. It is the fuel for the journey. Carol, wow. Can we give Carol a number 7, please? That is epic. And it's not only epic, it's so deeply true. It's profoundly true. Carol, awesome. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. I'm going to say that it probably comes from some form of direct experience as well, and also observation of your environment, maybe with other people, and perhaps just you just educating yourself and becoming wise in that space. That's beautiful. Number 7, Carol, please. That's awesome, people. So understanding that we become drained, that toxicity is a perception. So again, where does that survival strategy come from? Well, survival strategy will generally come from our childhood, will generally come from our growth through our hypnagogic era, or hypnagogic stage of development, where we experience inconsistency in our childhood relationships, where we experience trauma and pain in our childhood relationships. This isn't always the case, by the way. And when someone then applies opposing strategies, we feel abused and we don't necessarily know how to deal with this situation. So this coping strategy, or these series of coping strategies, really develop as we grow older. And they almost solidify in our adult relationships unless we are able to do something about it. And we'll generally attach. So we'll attach to this coping strategy, or we'll attach to people in a particular way. And there's extremes in this attachment. So one side will cling and protest while the other withdraws and disengages. So we can look at an example, 2 people arguing. One person wishes to solve the argument or be in the argument by being abusive or being very confrontational, where the other wishes to disengage, create space, usually in a feminine, masculine and dichotomy, so to speak, yeah? When that happens, there's 2 opposing conflict styles. Now, if we can't recognize that as individuals and we cannot break through that, we become broken by that. If we can't mutually together communicate the openness of that, we become broken by that. We begin to lose ourselves in that. And all we begin to focus on is this conflict that isn't healthy, as opposed to how can we grow from this situation? How can we grow from this unpleasantness? How can we grow from this tension? And asking a beautiful question, I want you to give me number 8 if you can really resonate with this and you can agree with this deeply, connect to this, is what would love do now? Objectively, is how we understand love. If we ask, what would love do now? Would love do this? Wouldn't love allow? Wouldn't love be present? Wouldn't love be open? Wouldn't love be compassionate? Wouldn't love be caring, understanding, inclusive? Wouldn't love create space, observe? Love would. If you can resonate with that, place number 8 in the comment box. So instead of being repulsed by our partners and by the dynamic or the nature of the relationship, why don't we begin to observe with greater clarity the relationship? So if you're perpetually engaged in these behaviors that I'm about to list, I'm about to go through these, if you're perpetually engaged in these dynamics, then perhaps it's necessary that you look at your relationship and you look at the quality of the relationship. And of course, you look at yourself in the relationship and observe that and observe the dynamic and what is happening, because it may be time to reassess the relationship or let the relationship go, or connect deeper to the relationship, observe with greater clarity in the relationship, or place more effort, more precise, discerned effort into the relationship, and more attention and intention into the relationship. So let's move through some of the signs that you are in a toxic relationship. And so I'm going to speak openly to either you're doing this, or the other individual is doing this, or you're both doing this, okay? So whatever person I refer to, whether it be they, you, both, know that it could be a combination of all of that. So they put you down. They're perpetually mocking you. They are perpetually calling you names, discrediting your feelings, discrediting your ability, not connecting to who you are. When this is perpetual, when this is constant, this is a problem. When this is the nature of you or the individual, the nature of the dynamic, this is a problem. Be mindful of that, yeah? Of course, all of these traits that I'm about, or these expressions that I'm about to mention, in and of themselves, they could be okay. If they're separate occasions, we sometimes crumble and buckle under pressure. And that's okay, but only you can determine how okay that is. It's when these states are perpetual that it becomes a problem, and it becomes a serious problem. Blaming, externalizing, projecting. When you are blaming, externalizing, projecting considerably, this is a problem. When you are hearing the words, it's always your fault. When you are hearing absolute terminology, always, such as always, you're potentially in a toxic relationship. It becomes unhealthy when your partner or you do not take responsibility and ownership for who you are and for your actions, especially if there's an element of or an air of perfectionism around self or around the other. This is going to be a problem in your relationship, and it's going to be unhealthy, very unhealthy. Mary, hello. Sky, yes, hello, how are you? Abusive, yes, abusive. And it is, all of these traits are actually, they in some way, shape or form, they're abusive, especially if they are consistent. Remember, consistency is so powerful, even in the areas of the negative. If you are consistently putting someone down, if you're consistently externalizing your responsibilities, you're going to become very proficient at doing that. And you'll negate the ability to look at yourself, observe yourself with depth and clarity. If you can't do that, guess what happens? You can never transmute or transform behaviors. You can never move through behaviors. You can never move past them, behaviors that don't serve you. Give me number 9 if you can resonate with that, please. So, next one, manipulation. So, we're looking at the individual manipulating. Your partner may sulk, may give you the silent treatment. Your partner may disengage. Your partner may test you and trigger you on purpose. And when they do not get their own way, they become abusive in their own way. And they place pressure because their needs or their perceived needs aren't being met. And when this is done in a disrespectful manner, when this is done in a hurtful manner, when this is done in a manipulative manner, generally your partner will be in their dark, unhealthy feminine. And that goes for males and females, yeah? Let's be really, really clear on that. So yeah, emotional blackmail would be, Emma, would be a perfect indication of that manipulation, yeah, emotional blackmail. Inconsistent, the next one is inconsistency in their word, inconsistency in what they tell you they will do or who they tell you they will be or how they indicate to you they will be or what they will do, but they don't do it. They are inconsistent and they do not follow through. They do not walk their talk. They say they won't hurt. You say you won't hurt them on purpose or with intention, but you do because you are in an unhealthy, selfish space. If any of you can relate to any of these, that you've either been yourself, that you've experienced perhaps in another, please put them down in the comments. Please speak openly to this. This is an opportunity for you, A, to express and release tension within yourself, but also to gain feedback from all the other wonderful souls and the brilliant minds that are on this live feed through their own life experience. We are relational beings and we have a great capacity to learn from each other. Mary says, dealt with this for over 20 years. Yeah, wow. That's a long time, Mary. Generally speaking, that's a quarter of our lives in the way our lifespans are right now. So really honouring that. Sky, you too, yeah. But that term better late than never makes a big difference. A big difference. It's never too late to learn and grow and become. It never, never is. Yeah. Passive aggressive behavior is toxic. That's another, that's part of that manipulation as well, that passive aggressive behavior. Yeah. But never following through on these promises. Never really being very inconsistent with word. This is painful. This is not healthy. Next, you dismiss your partner's emotions or they dismiss yours. In other words, because they cannot connect to you, they cannot connect to the feelings that you are portraying, the feelings that you are expressing, they indirectly or directly just completely disregard who you are. And they'll do this through their body language, or they will do this through their words, or they will overtly state that you are wrong in what you are feeling. You will be discounted. And for the majority of the time, men do this to women. Men discount a woman's feelings because they simply want to move into fixing mode. They want to move into solution mode. They want to break down, become very analytical, become very logical in the sequential steps that should be taken in order to remedy the feelings that a woman is feeling, or rather that the feminine is feeling. So show masculine and feminine, because this happens in contralateral sexuality and contralateral gender roles as well. The woman may do the same for a man. It just depends who's in their feminine, masculine, and how, but it's generally men to women, where they'll discount the woman's feelings and the way she is projecting. And this is very, very unhealthy. It's so unhealthy for the way we connect as people. Sometimes we simply just need to be heard. We need to be felt. We need to be connected to. We need to be understood. We do not need to be judged for what we are feeling. And sometimes we know that what we are feeling, not that we shouldn't be feeling it, but that we at some stage need to move past it really quickly because it's better for us. But in order to do that, we need to be held. We need to be understood. We need to feel compassion from others sometimes so that we can feel it for ourselves. We need to know what that feels like. Remember what I said at the beginning. Our relationships are an externalization of who we are inside, and sometimes we need that external light to spark that internal flame within us. You can give me a number 10 in the comment box if you can resonate with that, because that's really powerful, people. This is so powerful. And if you are consistently discounting your partner's emotions or your friend's emotions or your mother's emotions, your dad's or brother's emotions, and you're not listening fully to them, you're being a tremendous disservice to their growth and to your own growth as well. Another point that you may be in a toxic relationship is that you feel distrusted, but you are always questioning yourself because of how the other, or how you are allowing the other to make you feel. You're constantly questioning yourself because you don't trust yourself. It's like a saying that we have in Western culture is, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells because I don't want to do anything to upset them. You're constantly stressing about what the other may think and feel, and you're questioning yourself. You lack trust within yourself. You lack connection within yourself. You lack an ability to stand in your own posturing and strength. And Emma says, yes, I've been the victim in the past 2 long-term relationships, also amounting to over 20 years, but I accept my partner allowing this behavior and enabling them. Beautiful revelation and realization, Emma. Because I have an incessant need to help and fix others, and these men played on my kind nature by using emotional blackmail to keep me in the relationships. And that also fed your need to be noticed and understood and validated in that relationship through the ego self as well, with respect to that perpetual behavior. And the fact that you can recognize that, Emma, is just amazing. So much love to you for that. Number 11 for Emma, please. Number 11 for that deep recognition and realization. So powerful. Angela, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. So number 11 for Emma, because I really resonate with that, Emma. That's so powerful. The transition is what I resonate with. The fact that you can recognize such depth of behavior and interaction, the way you were, the way you are. It's just amazing. So much honoring for that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. Mary says our own insecurities and fears. Absolutely, Mary. Just completely agree with that. So when we're questioning ourselves, like we're supposed to learn and grow with our partner, They shouldn't try and change us to fit their ideal mold of what a partner should be, or what a friend should be, or what a brother should be. Just because your partner doesn't know how to handle arguments because of their own conditioning, because of their own childhood coping strategies they've developed and transferred into their adult relationships, and they don't know how to communicate, doesn't mean that you need to second guess your standards, your character, your values, your purpose, who you are and how you present in the relationship. Let's be really super, super clear on that, yeah? Super clear on that. Number 12 in the comment box, if you can resonate and agree with that, because that's really important as well. When you can't be yourself around your partner, that's a problem. I personally have been that person too often in relationships where I haven't been able to be myself, and not because of the beautiful nature of the women that I've been with. It hasn't been them. It's been completely me, because I've been living inauthentically. I've been living incongruently. I've been living in lies in my past relationships. I haven't created a space for myself to be honest, because I was living in fear effectively. Fear of being judged, ridiculed, abandoned, humiliated, not understood, not connected to. The fear of loss, so much different fear, so many layers of fear that I had to move through, work through, go deep into, and have spent the last 2.5, 3 years doing so. But what happened was, in the process, hurt myself and hurt the beautiful people that I was with, because I couldn't be honest. And I couldn't be myself around them. So what do? I hid in shadows, because that aspect of self that needs to be expressed in some way, shape or form, if it's not expressed overtly, will express itself in shadows. And that is so far more detrimental to your growth. And I experienced that. What's the point of being in a relationship if you can't be you? The person's getting a false version of you. They're not getting an opportunity or having an opportunity to decide who they truly wish to be with, because I used to present a aspect of self, which was very much me, but it was only an aspect of self. And my shadow self would run riot in the shadows, in the darkness. And they never knew that. They never knew that person. And that's not fair on them, and it's not fair on you. You need to be the best version of yourself. And that means being you. The fullness of yourself is the best version of yourself. Okay, let me repeat that. The fullness of yourself is the best version of yourself. Number 13 for that, please, in the comment box. The best version of yourself is defined by the wholeness and fullness of yourself. Please understand that. Please understand that. A toxic partner will not let you be. They want you to be what they think you should be. And the result of that is that you feel like you're losing yourself. This is the other side of it now, yeah? When you are actually wanting to be yourself and you have capacity to be yourself, but your partner wants to change or transmute you, transform you. And you feel like you're losing yourself and you're never good enough. You feel unloved, you feel insecure, you feel detached, you feel disconnected, you feel lost. You feel like you are not good enough and your self-worth is shot to shit. Carol says, we often come across different personalities that don't resonate with us, and therefore we're not vibrating at the same energy, in which we are not fully connecting heart, mind and body. Absolutely. Absolutely, Carol. That's deeply true. Yeah. So we will feel unworthy. This is the opposite of what I described a moment ago, when we are being forced to be someone that we are not. Especially if we love and care for that person, especially if we have an emotional bond, commitment and attachment to that person of some form. Keep that in mind. Indications you may be in a toxic relationship. This is number 7 or 8, maybe the 8th point, somewhere there. And this topic is challenging, Sky. It is, because when emotions are involved, it becomes a very layered subject matter. It becomes a very layered experience and a very deep experience. I want to check in with everybody. I want to know how everybody is feeling right now, and how's everybody going? Is some of this very confronting for you? Is some of this okay? Are light bulbs going off? Is it reaffirmation? Is it reaffirming a truth within you? Are you struggling with this subject matter? Are you struggling to listen, to hear, to feel this? Is it challenging you? Is it difficult? Are you in pain because of what I'm bringing up and some of the points? Is it really familiar to you? How's everybody feeling right now? That's important to me, and I'm sure it's important to all of you as well with respect to how your own hearts are feeling. So just want to know, okay, you're feeling emotional. That's okay, Sky. It's a beautiful vulnerability, and you're very much supported in this space. Please know that you're supported by myself. You're supported by all the beautiful souls on this live feed right now, and I'm sure in some capacity you're supported by your own social network and your own bonded network as well. And it's okay it's more than okay to be feeling emotional about this, because some of this can be very confronting for us, and it hurts us to know that we've lived a particular way, or we've been a particular way, or we've been treated in a particular way. And just know that feeling the feelings in this space, feeling who you are in this space, and allowing that to come up gently, and just being compassionate and kind to self in that space is really important right now. Donna says it's real. It is very real, and please, people, let me help you understand something. For the most part, even for narcissists, even for individuals that are narcissistic, for the most part, guess what? It's not that it's not their fault. Everybody's responsible for their choices, but they also, narcissists, for example, people have been deeply hurt as young people and have not been able to navigate their way through life. And it's not an excuse to treat others in their adult relationships in that way. It's not. But understand that if we can have that compassion, empathy, they never receive. This is the key. They will then begin to transmute their behavior. My brother Nikhil says, heavy yet held. Brother, I got your back, I got your front, I got your sides, up, down, below, above. I got your back, brother, you know that. Mary says, it's been confronting this head-on since January. It's hard but beautiful journey of self, lots and lots of emotion, sadness, strength that goes back and forth. It does, Mary. And as it goes back, we go back and we go forward a little bit more. We come back a bit, we reveal, we have revelation, we have a deeper understanding and connection. We move forward and we just keep this interlude, this play, it's this dance. It's this beautiful dance, this fluid dance that transpires. And the more we go backwards, actually, the more we can grow and learn. And the more we go forwards, the more we're making progress towards our authentic self. So if this is difficult and deeply challenging, stay with this, people, as best you can. If it gets too much, just pull back. Be nice to yourself. Plunge yourself in the ocean. Make yourself a cup of tea. Dance, sing. Be with people that you love and care about. Pull yourself back, support yourself, nurture yourself. When you're ready, you go back into, you immerse, you confront, you move through the fear. It will all happen. It all happened in beautiful divine timing. And Sylvia says, for me, feeling a wave of emotions for a long time, and this is helping to open my eyes and make me realize that I'm on the right track. Beautiful, Sylvia. Beautiful. Amazing. Amazing. Problems are never resolved is the next one. So when the same arguments keep repeating and are never resolved, this tends to happen a lot when we are in relationships that revolve around toxicity, that are unhealthy by nature. Now, we may want to give our partner the benefit of the doubt, but continuing to have these arguments repeatedly can tarnish our relationship and is emotionally draining, spiritually draining, and it compounds. And we build resentment. We then begin to move away from the relationship, yeah? And if you can resonate with that, pop a number 14 in the comment box. Here's a really simple tip that I'm sure you've all heard before. This is nothing new, okay? But number 14 in the comment box if you can resonate with what I've just said. Before I do that, Karuna says, I don't necessarily agree that if you show empathy to a narcissist sociopath, they improve. If you show empathy, they take advantage of it, as they have very little empathy or remorse, moral code. They see this as a competitive edge. Karuna, I don't disagree with that. The empathy isn't so much for you, for them, it's for you. You can choose to cultivate anger, and you can choose to cultivate resentment, and you can choose to cultivate disconnection and disparity, or you can choose to cultivate empathy and compassion within you. And these are more desirable states of being. And in that, you will find your peace. The empathy is not so much for the other, it's primarily for you as a starting point. And then, guess what we're doing? We're changing lives. We're transmuting lives by being able to do that. Or at least we enhance the opportunity of that occurring. And to give is something of a profound divine gift that we give to ourselves and that we give to others as well. And yeah, you're right, Karina. Most narcissists, unless people that are sociopathic or have a psychopathology or that are narcissistic actually want to change and actually can observe that they are that person, they're not going to change. But it's, again, that same old argument. Do we not brush our teeth in the morning because they're going to get dirty? Do we not shower because we are going to eventually get dirty? Do we not show empathy because that person will not take on board what we are projecting or expressing? It's not so much about the other person. It's most important. Always prioritize yourself in a healthy, selfish way. You don't respect and revere your partner. So when you view your partner as a narcissist or a child, you may be toxic. Now, for instance, when your partner continues to make childlike decisions and only thinks of themselves, it's hard to have respect for a person who won't consider your feelings. And that's a given. That's an absolute given, yeah? Respect and trust is the basic foundation for every relationship. So if your relationship doesn't have these qualities, then you need to reconsider the relationship. But what I said earlier, if you're consistently viewing your partner in a particular way, not respecting them and not giving them, and these are for, and if they're doing the same to you and they're not giving you the opportunity to grow and to express, we're not respecting each other. If we don't respect each other's values, if we don't connect with each other and listen to each other and consciously communicate with each other, this becomes a problem. So we've got some questions here. Okay, cool. Let me go, Carol. So Carol says, when we are in toxic relationship, it's so vital to take time away from being in a relationship and investing in yourself and fully being present with yourself, loving yourself unconditionally and truly finding yourself. From that point on, we are then ready to accept the right people, I would say well-aligned people in our lives that resonate with us. Absolutely beautiful. And speaking so you can lead a horse to water, yes. What about alcoholics and addiction? Tough. Addictions are very complex and multi-layered. And what we are finding now and what the latest research is really unpacking is that addiction comes largely from a lack of social support, social empathy, social compassion. And we are filling voids for various reasons. And we look to externalized objects or externalized activities outside of ourselves to run away from our pain, to fill the voids, to create, or well, actually not creating space, to fill our space. So we do that with an activity that stimulates the physical senses, yeah, where huge dumps of hormone releases. And sometimes it's alcoholism, sometimes it's gambling, sometimes it's over-exercising, sometimes it's immersion into any particular activity. That becomes very difficult. When you're supporting an addict or you're enabling an addict, that becomes challenging because you're demeaning your own self-worth and you're enabling them. You're allowing them to continue that behavior by demonstrating to them that it's okay to do so. That's a very complex, layered conversation. If you have a specific question around that, I'll go into it, but broadly, I don't want to go too deep into that because it's heavy. It is really heavy. And if that, let me just be really clear on this. If that addictive behavior is toxic in the sense that it's causing you harm and causing them harm, and whatever you seem to be doing is having the opposite effect, then you need to distance yourself from that relationship. You have to create space for your own health and sanity and for theirs as well. And that's tough. Mary said, I'll try to work it out. Compassion. He's a complete narcissist. He's still blaming me. However, I have no contempt for him, no hatred. I've told him this as well. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Mary. And again, just because you exhibit empathy and compassion, it does not mean that you remain in the relationship and allow that person to hurt you or allow that person to keep treating you ill. Definitely not. That's not what compassion is. Yeah, let's be really clear on that. That is definitely not what compassion is. You know, you're in a toxic relationship when there is drama, when there is tension, when there are arguments constantly being created, either by yourself or by the other, or by the dynamic of your own personalities clashing, and by your ego selves clashing. So if you're constantly creating issues, drama, pain points, negativity, tension in a relationship, that's tough. that becomes disengaging for us. Have you ever, I'm interested, has anyone ever been in a relationship where, like, seriously, the large percentage of the time, and sometimes the large percentage of the time can be 20 or 30% of the time, you're arguing. And arguing in a toxic way, in a way that is disconnecting, in a way that is hurtful, in a way that is demeaning. But has anyone been in those type of relationships where there's just constant arguments, consistent arguments, and there's just this high level tension? I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that, or read people's thoughts on that. I really would. The next sign that you may be in a toxic relationship is when either you're not looking after yourself holistically, or the individual is not looking after themselves holistically. And by holistically, I mean they're not looking after the physical selves. They're not mindful of their emotional selves. They're not mindful of their mental faculties. They're not mindful of their spiritual selves or the relational selves. And really what this indicates is low self-worth. So if you've got two people that have like extremely low self-worth, that's going to be immensely challenging, like deeply, deeply challenging. And even if you have one person that has low self-worth, you're going to really struggle in the relationship. And if that's you, the byproduct of that is that you're needy, that sometimes you may detach, you're disconnected, you're not present, you don't understand, you're edgy, the mentality is very rigid, emotional disharmony can be very dangerous to the progression of the relationship when we have low self-worth. And we can observe that by how people behave and treat themselves, but also how they communicate. Are they lacking communication? Are they very aggressive in the communication? So they're constantly attacking? That's very, very important to understand. And if you can resonate with that, if you can connect to that, pop a number 15 in the comment box, please. Pop a number 15 in the comment box. That low self-worth, can be deeply dangerous in a relationship, yeah? Deeply dangerous in a relationship. And the last one, I'm sure there are so many more beautiful people. I'm sure there are so many more signs that you're potentially in a toxic relationship. But the last one that I want to speak to, that I would love to speak to, is that the lack of intelligence. Now, intelligence, and I'll speak to I'll define intelligence in a moment, but the lack of intelligence I have this in my conscious warrior model, which is a model for the divine masculine, a model for how to be a real man in today's world. And intelligence is one of the principles that, if we adhere to, assists us in being real men, in learning how to communicate more openly. And by intelligence, I'm talking about aptitude and acuity in our cognitive intelligence, in our emotional intelligence, in our spiritual intelligence, our physical intelligence, our relational intelligence. I'm speaking to being intelligent across all 9 areas of life. That's what I'm speaking to, yeah? So intelligence plays a huge role. Intelligence is consciousness and awareness. Consciousness and awareness of self, and connection to self. That we can observe that if something is out of alignment, we can make adjustments in our behaviors, in our thought patterning, in our models of reality, in our belief systems, in our emotional expressions, that we can actually adjust. We are emotionally intelligent, we feel our own emotions, we can self-regulate, and we can do the same, we can assist others in doing the same. And that intelligence, if we lack that in relationship, the relationship can lead to a toxic relationship. So I've got some comments here I want to go through. I hate confrontation, disagreements. However, my ex would feed off this if I didn't respond or distance myself from this behavior, and it would be fuel for him. And that is a lack of emotional intelligence, Emma. Absolutely. And Carolyn says, it is difficult to recognize when you're in a toxic cycle in an intimate relationship. Only with support of family and friends, when they can see you crumbling, you realize it when it is most too late, that you have to get out. Now, from the other side, I can see how toxic it really was. Then it is dealing with what had happened for much longer than it appeared and going through that process, and at some point being able to forgive yourself and moving on. Carolyn, that is beautiful. Can we please give Carolyn a number 16 for that in the comment box? That is awesome. And effectively, Carolyn, what you're saying is that when we're looking, this is a really important tip, beautiful people, is when we're talking about support, we want to surround ourselves with people that we trust, we revere, and we respect profoundly, because the insight they provide us, will come from a place of love and connection and yearning to serve us. Yeah? Carolyn, thank you for that wonderful, beautiful comment. Absolutely. Yeah, number 16 for sure. All over that. All over that. So, amazing, wonderful people. At this point, that is pretty much what I can think of. There would be like 12 or 13 points there around signs that we are in a toxic relationship, that we may be in a toxic relationship, in a relationship that is not healthy for us, in a relationship that is not conducive to our growth and expansion of mind and of heart and of being and of consciousness. Yelena, hello. How are you? Welcome all the way from Miami. Thank you for being here, my dear. Mary says, our conditioning is very difficult to move past. It's being consistently mindful of our thoughts and of our self-worth. And continuing to come back to that, Mary. Continuing to come back to that place of discernment and stability within self, that strong, affluent, masculine presence within self, that trusting posturing within self. And we must look within ourselves to trust ourselves first, before we look outside of ourselves. And in order to trust ourselves, we must know ourselves, we must connect to ourselves, we must be conscious of our talents, we must be conscious of our being, of our beingness. Beautiful. That is all for this evening, I believe. I wish to thank you for being here. Please, if you resonate with this message, share. Share the message, share the video, share the live feed with your loved ones, with your friends, your Facebook feed, etc., etc. Wendy says, I'm very happy that I had the courage to walk away and protect and preserve myself, as I know that I deserve to be loved and respected. And your actions indicate that, Wendy. They indicate it beautifully. Thank you so much. Thank you, wonderful people out there, for joining, for being part of this live feed, for being present. Please, once again, if you resonate, thank you, Karur. If you resonate with this message, with this video, please share it. Of course, namaste, my brother. Of course, I will see you again soon. Charlene, thank you for being here, away from Canada. We have such a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-nationality, multinational, we're all children of the earth, of course, yeah? Children of this cosmos. But so many people from all around the world here. It's beautiful. It's an honor to be able to serve in this way. So I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so much. If you have any thoughts or feelings or comments, pop it on here. After this live feed, if there's any questions you want to ask, pop them on here, and I'll, of course, do my best to endeavor to respond as promptly as possible. But wishing you many blessings on your journey. Thank you so much, and many, many blessings to you all. Have a beautiful day, morning, evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much.